What's up everybody, back for another Star Rail video. This time it's a should you summon for Anaxa. Now there's a lot of interesting takes about Anaxa. Is he going to be Herta's best partner? Is he going to be his own DPS, right? Now personally I think Anaxa works way better as his own DPS, right? But you can run him with Herta and Herta will get buffs from Anaxa, right? I don't think that Anaxa is really like created to be like the Herda like ally, right? Kind of like how clearly Sunday was made for Aglia, right? It's pretty obvious, right? Or what was it, Fugue for Rappa or whatever it may be, right? Whoever has their like best support, Jiaoqiu Acheron, right? I don't think Anaxa is really that for the Herda, even though the team works, right? The team does work. I think Anaxa definitely shines as his own DPS. But regardless, we gotta go over the kit, and then at the very end, I will talk about the life cone really briefly. But anyways, let's jump into it. So Anaxa is a 5-star wind erudition character. Very cool gimmick that Anaxa has. When we'll get to it. Basic attack is the same thing, yada yada, right? Skill deals wind damage equal to 70% of Anaxa's attack to one designated enemy, and additionally deals 4 instances of damage. Each instance the damage deals wind damage equal to 70% of his attack to one random enemy, prioritizing bouncing to enemy targets that have not been hit by this instance of skill. When used for each attackable enemy on the field, the skill has its damage dealt increased by 20%. So Anaxa bounce, right? It'll randomly hit people, more enemies, more damage, right? Then the ultimate inflicts the sublimation state on all enemies, then deals wind damage equal to 160 of his attacked all enemies. When in the sublimation state, the targets will be simultaneously affected with every element, lasting until the start of the target's turn. If the targets do not have control res, they are unable to take action in the sublimation state, right? So pretty much Silver Wolf E, but AoE, and it's every element. And it's you just hit it, right? Pretty cool, right? Then the talent, right, which is where most of the damage is going to come from. Each time Anaxa lands one hit on enemy targets, inflicts one weakness of a random type to the targets, lasting for 3 turns, with priority to the weakness type that the targets don't already possess. While Anaxa is on the field, inflicts disclosure state on enemy targets that have at least 5 different types of weakness. Anaxa deals 30% increased damage to targets inflicted with disclosure. In addition, after using base attack or skill on them, unleashes one additional instance of a skill on the targets. This additional skill does not consume any skill points and cannot trigger this effect again. If the target has been defeated, then you just skill a random enemy. Meaning, when you use your skill, you will get a bunch of weaknesses on the enemy. You can also use your ult, and then when you have that up, even if you base attack, you will do an additional skill. So pretty much Anaxa's all his damage is going to be from using his skill over and over on a bunch of enemies, because you get 2 skills in one, and then you do more damage when they have more weakness, right? This also lets Anaxa pretty much go into any fight. It doesn't matter what they're weak to, because Anaxa will implant it on them. So if you're fighting a character and you're like, oh well, you know, my teams are Anaxa and let's say Castoris, and one of them is weak to Quantum and Wind, but the other one isn't weak to either. You just bring Anaxa in the second one, and you're good to go. Now, obviously, if they have wind resistance, Anaxa is still going to do less damage because of that, so do keep that in mind. Then let's go over to the technique. After using technique, inflicts a terrified state on enemies in a set area. Terrified enemies will flee in a direction away from Anaxa for 10 seconds. When allies enter battle via actively attacking terrified enemy, it will always be considered as entering battle via attacking a weakness. After entering battle, Anaxa applies 1 weakness on the attacker's type for every enemy target, lasting for 3 turns. Then his bonus traces are, for every 1 different weakness type an enemy target has, damage that Anaxa deals to the target ignores 4% of their defense up to a max of 7 weakness types can be taken into account for this effect, which is interesting. They definitely like if they added more elements, right, then Anaxa couldn't really take advantage of that, unfortunately, which does suck. When using basic attack, additionally regenerates 10 energy. At the start of the turn, if there are no enemy targets in the disclosure state, it immediately regenerates 30 energy. This will help him get his ult, which just means more weakness implant. Now, here is the bonus trace that has people thinking he's the best Herta support. Based on the number of erudition characters on the team, one of the following effects will be triggered in the current battle. For 1 character, Anaxa's crit damage increases by 140. For 2, all damage dealt by allies will increase by 50%. While the 50% is nothing to scoff at, Anaxa technically isn't really doing too much to actually boost Herta's damage, right? Which, to be fair, neither is like serval or whatnot. But it's really just implant ice weakness and then 50% damage dealt, right? Which is still good, right? You can still definitely summon for this. But I don't know. I don't think it's enough, and I feel like you'd rather just want to take advantage of Anaxa's 140 crit damage increase. That's crazy, right? Anaxa also gives himself 22.4% wind, 12% crit rate, and 10% HP. But you could definitely, like, if you really want Herta to be like crazy, you can grab Anaxa. Anaxa, I haven't really had time to like see how good Jade or Argenti is, right? I've only really just used Serval and Mini Herta, but I feel like Anaxa definitely is the best Herta partner, unless um you're just well, it depends on how much he gets his energy, right? It really just depends. I don't know. I think he is. I think he technically would be the best Herta partner just because his own damage would be pretty good. Yeah, no, he would be. But I don't like. I'm trying to factor in the fact that you'd also have to pull him with all the Stellar Jades. If you're a Herder main and you're fine with where you're at, I think you're totally okay with just rocking what you got, right? If you really want to like have like the best premium Herder team, you can get Anaxa, right? Anaxa is incredible on his own. If you end up not liking Anaxa with Herder, you can run him as another DPS. It's totally valid. Let's just quickly go over dupes. After using skill for the first time, recovers 1 skill point when using skill to hit enemy targets. Decrease the target's defense by 60%, lasting for 2 turns. E2, when enemy targets enter the battlefield, triggers 1 instance of the talent's weakness implant effect and reduces their all-type res by 20%. E4, when using skill, increases attack by 30%, lasts for 2 turns. Effect can stack up to 2 times for a total of 60% attack increase. E6, damage dealt by Anaxa is 130% of the original damage. The 2 effects in the trace imperative hiatus will be triggered directly and will no longer depend on the number of addition characters on the team. Meaning, if you get him E6, you get 140 crit damage and 50% to all allies no matter what, which is pretty fucking broken. I'm not gonna lie. Of course, that's E6, right? Now, in terms of light cones, right? His light cone is clearly going to be his best for DPS purposes. You get energy, you get damage dealt, and then you also get defense lowering, right? However, there is a free one that you get from the current money cookie clicker whatever event, right? Increase the wearer's attack by 16%, and then for every weakness type an enemy target has, increase the damage dealt by it by the wearer by 8%. Up to a max of 7 weaknesses types can be taken into effect. It is a free light cone that totally works with Anaxa. Obviously, his will be way better, but that one does work if you are looking to just pick up Anaxa and you don't really want to spend currency. So, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to if you want Anaxa, I feel like you get a lot more value out of him if you want to use him as his own DPS. If you're only summoning for the Herta, you really have to consider like what's coming next. We have a potential really good healer coming out. We have a new Nihility character coming out, Cypher as well. So you really got to be a bit careful. I don't think the damage increase is going to be like the craziest for at least the Herta's damage, right? I feel like they're definitely holding back the prime like Herta ally, right? Whoever it's gonna be, don't know when they're gonna come out. I don't know, but once we get a negotiation character who is more of a support and like buffs damage, right? Anaxa technically does that, right? But most of his stuff is for his own damage. But once we get an actual like irradiation character that's like basically a support, that will be the time when Herta wants her ally, right? But other than that, Anaxa looks very cool, pretty much like a more DPS oriented Silverwolf, because Silverwolf was doing the same things with weakness implants and like defense lowering and stuff, but she was more of a support character. You could make her DPS, right? But she was more in line with a support character. Anaxa is definitely more in line with a DPS character. Very cool. Let me know in the comments if you're going to summon or not. If you know you're going for light cone, you're going for dupes and whatnot. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.